Dear Patriots, before the news starts, please subscribe to our patriotic channel by clicking the subscribe button. Give us a thumbs up to this video. Don't forget to leave your opinion below in the comments section. Share the news on Facebook and Twitter so you friends see it. Thank you.
Trump calls $1.3 trillion spending bill a ridiculous situation. President Donald Trump assailed a $1.3 trillion government funding bill even as he announced his decision to sign it Friday as a matter of national security. "There are a lot of things that I'm unhappy about in this bill," he said, after announcing he signed it into law. "There are a lot of things that we shouldn't have had in this bill." Trump said he swallowed his objections to the bill because of its funding for national defense and the military. But he said the bill included many provisions demanded by lawmakers in exchange for the uptick in military funding that he would prefer be eliminated. Trump urged the Senate to eliminate its filibuster, which requires a supermajority of 60 votes to pass most bills. But there is little appetite among senators of either party to adopt such a rules change. Trump also demanded a line-item veto to allow him to axe specific provisions of bills he dislikes, even though the Supreme Court ruled that line-item vetoes are unconstitutional. "I will never sign another bill like this again," he said, calling the 2,200-page plan a ridiculous situation. "I'm not going to do it again." Trump, unhappy with omnibus bill, calls on Congress to reinstate line-item veto. President Donald Trump on Friday called for reinstating the line-item veto, a practice ruled unconstitutional by the Supreme Court in 1998. Trump's call for a line-item veto, by which he would be able to reject specific portions of a measure without vetoing a piece of legislation entirely, came amid afternoon remarks at the White House Friday in which he excoriated Congress, especially Democrats, for sending him an omnibus bill that met his demand for a dramatic increase in military spending but nonetheless included funding for things that are really a wasted sum of money. "To prevent the omnibus situation from ever happening again, I'm calling on Congress to give me a line-item veto for all government spending bills, and the Senate must end. They must end the filibuster rule and get down to work," the president said. "We have to get a lot of great legislation approved, and without the filibuster rule, it'll happen just like magic." Trump said he had signed the omnibus bill, which he had threatened earlier Friday to veto, but declared he would never again sign such a bill, which, he complained, contained too much spending and had been presented to him with insufficient time to read its 2,200-plus pages. Past presidents from both parties have called on Congress to give them a line-item veto, a power that the governors of more than 40 states possess. Lawmakers passed legislation to give the president a line-item veto in 1996, but that law was overturned in 1998 by the Supreme Court by a 6-3 vote. Trump's demand that the Senate do away with its legislative filibuster, which requires most legislation to clear a 60-vote threshold to pass the chamber, is a repeat of a position he has long staked out. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, RCI, who last year removed the filibuster hurdle for judicial nominations in order to secure the confirmation of Supreme Court Justice Neil Gorsuch, has said he will never eliminate the legislative filibuster for as long as he is Majority Leader. Trump says U.S. close to wonderful trade deal with South Korea. President Donald Trump said Friday his administration was very close to finalizing trade talks with South Korea, suggesting that his border concerns over the free trade agreement between the two countries could also be resolved soon. "We're going to have a wonderful deal with a wonderful ally. We're getting very close to it," Trump said. "It was a deal that was causing a lot of problems for our country in terms of employment and in terms of lots of other things." Trump, who has repeatedly blasted the trade agreement between the U.S. and its Asian ally, made the comment at a press conference to mark his signing of a $1.3 trillion spending bill averting a government shutdown. Disagreements over the trade pact have undermined the relationship between Seoul and Washington at a time when North Korea's nuclear weapons tests have threatened to destabilize the region. Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross, who also spoke at the event, said the administration was nearing a pretty comprehensive resolution with South Korea. He said the agreement would encompass Trump's new tariffs on steel and aluminum imports as well as broader trade talks. "We hope by sometime next week to be able to have a real announcement," Ross added. The White House on Thursday night temporarily exempted South Korea from the new steel and aluminum tariffs, which were imposed under a rarely used trade law that allows the president to take trade action to protect national security interests. That exemption is pending a successful conclusion of talks to amend the 2007 Free Trade Agreement between the U.S. and South Korea, which took effect 6 years ago, U.S. Trade Representative Robert Lighthizer said earlier this week. Lighthizer initiated a process last July under the U.S.-South Korea trade deal to negotiate changes to the pact to address market access issues and the trade imbalance between the two countries, one of Trump's chief complaints about the deal. Senate Judiciary Committee summons Facebook, Google, Twitter CEOs. Senate Judiciary Chairman Chuck Grassley, Republican Iowa, has invited Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg along with Google CEO Sundar Pichai and Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey to a hearing on data privacy on April 10. Zuckerberg will be asked about Facebook's past and future policies regarding the protection and monitoring of consumer data, according to a statement from the committee. The social network faces a growing controversy over reports that Cambridge Analytica, a data firm with links to the Trump campaign, secretly accessed and exploited data from 50 million Facebook users. Zuckerberg has also been invited to testify before the House and Senate Commerce Committees. White House's shot Trump doesn't believe Stormy Daniels was threatened. The White House said on Monday that President Donald Trump does not believe Stormy Daniels was threatened after she first spoke out about their alleged affair. There is nothing to corroborate her claim, White House Deputy Press Secretary Raj Shah said. Daniels, the adult film actress whose given name is Stephanie Clifford, said in an interview with 60 Minutes that aired on Sunday that she was physically threatened after speaking about her alleged sexual relationship with Trump to In Touch magazine in 2011. She said that after the magazine interview, a man approached her in a parking lot and told her to leave Trump alone. "Forget the story. That's a beautiful little girl. It'd be a shame if something happened to her mom," Daniels, in her 60 Minutes interview, recalled the man saying. Daniels is suing over a non-disclosure agreement she signed just weeks before the 2016 election, in which Trump's personal lawyer Michael Cohen paid $130,000 to secure her silence. Daniels has since said the agreement is not binding because Trump never signed it. She has offered to return the money. Shah also accused Daniels of being inconsistent in her account of an affair with Trump. "With respect to that interview, I will say the president strongly, clearly and has consistently denied these underlying claims," Shah said. "The only person who has been inconsistent is the one making the claims." When asked why Daniels was compensated to stay quiet, Shah said false charges are settled out of court all the time. "This is nothing outside the ordinary," he said. "False charges are settled out of court all the time. You have to ask Michael Cohen about the specifics." White House lawyer McGregor to exit. President Donald Trump's top White House lawyer, Don McGahn, is expected to step down later this year, though his resignation is contingent on the president finding a replacement and several other factors, according to 4 sources familiar with McGahn's thinking. McGahn, according to two of the sources, has signaled interest in returning to the Jonesdale law firm where he previously worked and reprising a role he had during the 2016 campaign by handling legal matters for Trump's re-election. But the exact timing for Mcgahn to make any move remains in flux. He's told associates he'd like to leave the White House by the summer, but it could also be put on hold through the 2018 midterms. Concerned about the velocity of turnover inside his White House and beyond, Trump personal lawyer John Dowd resigned on Thursday, and the president has made changes atop the State Department, CIA and the National Security Advisor slot. Sources said Trump wants to have a new White House counsel in place who he's comfortable with before clearing Mcgahn for the exits. "I think it's all up in the air," said a source close to Mcgahn. "I think he'd like to quit very much. The president doesn't want him to quit. The president wants him to stay. I don't think he knows who will replace him." Mcgahn, a former Federal Election Commission member, was one of Trump's earliest political advisors, signing on even before the Republican announced his presidential campaign in the spring of 2015. As White House counsel, Mcgahn has played a prominent but controversial role shepherding Trump's cabinet picks through confirmation, as well as notching lifetime appointments for 29 federal judges, including Supreme Court Justice Neil Gorsuch. Mcgahn has also been central to the reversal of myriad Obama-era policy regulations dealing with the environment and energy, health care, financial services and other industrial sectors. He can look at his first 14 to 16 months and say he's probably had a pretty good run, said a second Mcgahn associate. A third Mcgahn associate said his departure also may hinge on whether there's another opening for Trump to fill on the Supreme Court, an impossible to predict scenario but one that could present a unique legacy opportunity for the White House counsel. "I think if we had a possibility of getting another Supreme Court justice, I think he'd hang in," the source said. A White House spokesman declined comment. Mcgahn did not respond to requests for comment about his job plans or potential return to Jonesdale, where he was paid an annual salary of $2.4 million as a partner before joining the government, according to a 2017 financial disclosure form filed with the Office of Government Ethics. Mcgahn's departure would also free him from some of the daily turmoil associated with playing a prominent role in Special Counsel Robert Mueller's Russia investigation. The White House counsel told the president in January 2017 that then National Security Advisor Michael Flynn had misled both the FBI and Vice President Mike Pence about his interactions with the Russian ambassador to the U.S., which led to Flynn's firing. On Trump's orders, Mcgahn tried without success last March to stop Attorney General Jeff Sessions from recusing himself from the probe. Mcgahn also had a role in last May's firing of FBI Director James Comey. And Trump tried to get Mcgahn in June to press the Justice Department to examine potential grounds for firing Mueller. Mcgahn ignored the president's requests, telling then White House Chief of Staff Reince Priebus and then senior strategist Steve Bannon that he'd resign if the president didn't stop asking him about the issue. The Russia portfolio shifted out of Mcgahn's hands last summer with the arrival of Ty Cobb, whose daily responsibilities included White House document production and lining up current aides to meet with Mueller for interviews. But Cobb and Mcgahn still clashed over whether Trump should be so cooperative with the special counsel. Mcgahn urged the president to assert executive privilege on some documents being sought, but Trump followed Cobb's counsel and did not block any document production, according to sources familiar with the president's legal strategy. Mcgahn has met on at least 2 occasions for interviews with Mueller's prosecutors. During a recent visit he shared details about the president's reaction to a January New York Times story that described how Mcgahn had resisted his order to fire Mueller. Trump denied that he'd made any such request and asked then White House Staff Secretary Rob Porter to get Mcgahn to issue a statement disputing the article. If Mcgahn refused, Trump told the aide that he could be fired. The Trump-Mcgahn relationship is by many accounts a complicated one. 2 sources said they speak infrequently. Another noted that Mcgahn remains close to White House Chief of Staff John Kelly and that Trump does indeed rely on his top counsel. "It's hard to explain, but I think Trump values Don and his advice, and part of it is that Don is probably one of the only people who's ever said no to him," one of the Mcgahn associates said. A list of candidates to replace Mcgahn remains a work in progress. Several elite attorneys, including former George W. Bush Solicitor General Ted Olson, Robert Gifford Jr., and Reed Weingarten, declined job offers from Trump last spring to work on his Russia response. Former George W. Bush attorneys Bill Brooke and Emmett Flood also rejected overtures for the position that Cobb accepted to work in the White House. Flood subsequently met with the president earlier this month at the White House, though it's unclear if that has led to a job offer. Another name mentioned this week by a source close to Trump, Jake Layton, the current chair of the Securities and Exchange Commission. Said one former senior White House lawyer, "Coming in now, it would take a brave soul,